Today, we're going on a journey. We're heading inside the smallest country in the world to ask a really big question. How did it become one of the planet's biggest superpowers? We're going to dive into its sacred foundations, get up close with some of the most famous art ever created, and even peek into the secret rituals that shape its incredible global influence. And hey, if this is your first time with us, a big welcome to Scholar. This is where we get curious and explore all things scientific, cultural, and, yeah, sometimes a little mysterious. So let's dive right in. The Vatican is a place of incredible contradictions, right? On one hand, it's the tiniest independent state on the planet. I mean, we're talking less than half a square kilometer. You could fit its entire population into a big movie theater. But on the other hand, it's a massive global superpower. It's the spiritual center for 1.4 billion people and has diplomatic ties with pretty much every nation on Earth. So the big question is, how on earth did this tiny speck on the map get so powerful? Well, to figure that out, our journey has to start right where it all began, at its very foundation. Okay, so here we are, standing in the middle of the magnificent St. Peter's Square. You see this grand plaza, a symbol of faith for millions, but what you don't see is what's underneath. There's a history down there, one that's both sacred and, honestly, pretty brutal, going back 2,000 years. You see that giant obelisk right there in the center? That thing is ancient. It was dragged all the way from Egypt by the Roman Emperor Caligula, and it used to stand in a chariot racing arena known as Nero's Circus. And that was not a happy place. It was a site of horrific persecution for early Christians, and believe it or not, this very obelisk was a silent witness to the martyrdom of St. Peter himself. And the story of this exact spot is just incredible. It's gone through this complete transformation. After his crucifixion, Peter was buried in a simple grave nearby. For hundreds of years, Christians would visit his tomb in secret. But then, everything changed in the 4th century when the first Christian emperor, Constantine, built a huge basilica right on top of it. Fast forward another 1,000 years, and that basilica gets replaced by the even more magnificent one we see today. A project, by the way, that took more than 100 years to complete. Now, this is what it all comes down to. This is the reason the Vatican even exists. Back in the 1940s, archaeologists were digging deep under the main altar, and they found an ancient tomb. Scratched into a wall right beside it, they found this old Greek graffiti. It said Petrus Ini, which means Peter is here. The entire institution is built on the belief that this is the final resting place of the apostle. So from that sacred foundation, we're going to shift gears and step into the artistic soul of the Vatican Museums. And when I say museums, I mean a massive, sprawling complex of palaces and galleries. If you laid them end to end, they'd stretch for over 9 miles, packed with one of the greatest collections of art the world has ever seen. Just to give you an idea of the sheer scale here, we're talking about 70,000 works of art. 70,000. To put that in perspective, if you spent just 30 seconds looking at every single piece that's on display, it would take you almost 2 full weeks to see it all. But we don't have 2 weeks, so we're making a beeline for the undisputed crown jewel of the whole collection. And here we are inside the Sistine Chapel. Now, the crazy thing about this masterpiece is that the artist, the legendary Michelangelo, didn't even want the job. He saw himself as a sculptor, not a painter. He actually wrote a poem about how miserable he was, complaining about the agony of painting that ceiling. He wrote, "I am not in the right place. I am not a painter." It's such a powerful reminder of the real human struggle behind this divine work of art. And if you look at his most famous panel up there, the creation of Adam, there's a fascinating theory that Michelangelo actually hid a secret message in plain sight. Take a really close look at the shape that's formed by the cloak and all the angels surrounding God. A lot of people believe it's a perfect, anatomically correct drawing of the human brain. The idea is that God wasn't just giving Adam life, he was giving him intelligence. But this incredible room isn't just an art gallery. It's also a stage. A stage for one of the most secretive, most important rituals on the entire planet. The election of a new pope. This whole process is called a conclave. The word comes from the Latin cum clavis, which literally translates to with a key. And that's not a metaphor. That's exactly what happens. The cardinals are literally locked inside this chapel, totally cut off from the rest of the world, until they've chosen a new pope. So here's how it all goes down. All the cardinals under 80 years old file into the chapel and swear an oath of absolute secrecy. Then they start voting, casting their choices on little paper ballots. Now, to win, a candidate needs to get a 2/3 majority, and after every single round of voting, all of those ballots are collected and burned in a special stove. And that is where those world-famous smoke signals come from. If no one has reached that 2/3 majority, they add chemicals to the fire to make the smoke black. That's the signal to the world, nope, not yet. But when they finally have a winner, the ballots are burned clean, producing pure white smoke. That's the sign everyone is waiting for. It means we're about to hear the famous words habemus papam. We have a pope. Okay, so we've seen the history, the art, and the secret rituals. But how does this place actually work day to day? Let's pull back the curtain and look at the modern machine, the politics, and the money that keeps the Vatican running. Alright, first there's a really important distinction. You have Vatican City, that's the actual physical country. It's responsible for the museums, the gardens, the post office. But then you have the Holy See. Think of the Holy See as the global government of the Catholic Church. It's the entity that handles diplomacy and directs the Church's mission all over the world. And when it comes to money, the Vatican's economy is completely unique. It doesn't have any industry and it doesn't collect taxes. So where does the money come from? Well, mostly from ticket sales to the museums, from global donations called Peter's Pence, from its huge real estate and investment portfolio, and from selling its own collectible stamps and coins. But here's something that might surprise you. Despite all that priceless art and property, the Holy See often runs at a loss. Its yearly expenses, funding embassies, running media outlets, all of its charitable work, it all adds up, and it frequently costs more than the income it brings in. So it's a constant financial balancing act. Okay, for our last stop on this journey, I want to look past the grand art and the complex finances and focus on the people who give this ancient institution its modern human heart. You literally can't miss them in those crazy, colorful Renaissance uniforms. They are the Pontifical Swiss Guard, and yes, they are the world's smallest army. This tiny but elite force has been protecting the Pope for more than 500 years, and let me tell you, getting in is not easy. There's a very, very strict list of requirements. And you see that human side right at the very top. Pope Francis famously broke with tradition when he decided not to live in the enormous, lavish Apostolic Palace. When asked why, his answer was just so honest and down to earth. He said he needed to be around people for his own psychiatric well-being and couldn't handle the isolation of the palace. And that really brings us full circle, right back to that central paradox. The Vatican is this incredible story of faith, art, immense power, and simple humanity, all packed inside the world's tiniest country. And it leaves us with one last, really big question. How does an institution that started with the humble tomb of a fisherman remain such a powerful global force 2,000 years later? Well, I hope you enjoyed that deep dive into the Vatican. If you did, do us a favor and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe to Scholar for more explainers just like this one. As always, we put links to all our sources down in the description below. Thanks so much for watching.